Craig Smith cleared waivers and has been assigned to the AHL Providence Bruins. And we've got some Boston Bruins holiday wishes here on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, December 21st, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day. The podcast is free and available on Apple, Spotify, Pocket Casts, wherever you get podcasts. Please do smash that subscribe button so that you never miss a thing. The podcast is also available on YouTube in video form, and I also post some breaking news, updates, and post-game reaction there as well. If you're on Twitter, Instagram, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my dad jokes, hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. And I want to start today by sending out a big thank you to the person who hooked me up with this spectacular reverse retro Pooh Bear toque. So great to be the recipient of someone's generosity in helping that get sent all the way up here to Guelph, Ontario, and I will be rocking this proudly over the holidays. Now, let's start with some news before we get into some holiday wishes for our Boston Bruins. And the news yesterday was that Craig Smith has officially been assigned to Providence after clearing waivers on Monday. Now, it seems unlikely that Smith will actually report to Providence. He will likely remain in Boston, skating with the team. But what this move does is provide some cap relief for the Bruins. They had just over $53,000 in available cap space before putting Smith on waivers, and assigning him to Providence saves them $1.125 million against the cap. Now, the rosters are frozen from 11:59 p.m. this past Monday through to the 28th, so the Bruins can accrue some cap space daily over the holidays with Smith in Providence. So there's no waiver activity, no trades. Teams can recall players, though, so if there's an injury, then Smith can get back in the lineup. He can still play even after having been assigned to Providence. So we'll see tomorrow and Friday if he's back in the lineup. Jim Montgomery saying it's a roster flexibility move. He doesn't understand all the inner workings of the cap implications, but something the Bruins needed to do was cap and roster flexibility. As far as reporting to Providence, Jim Montgomery didn't believe that he's going to, but he didn't know for certain. Smith played in Monday's win over the Florida Panthers, recording 1 shot on goal. He has just 1 goal and 3 assists in 18 games this season. And again, with Smith assigned to Providence, the Bruins opening up some cap space. They now have $733,000 in projected cap space. 3.228 in projected deadline cap space with Smith assigned to Providence. Now, that's 3 guys now that they have assigned to Providence with buried cap penalties. You have Mike Riley, 1.875 against the cap. Chris Wagner, $225,000, and now Smith at $1.975. So again, the Bruins could recall these guys. They could try to trade them. They could keep them down in Providence for the remainder of the season and perhaps add someone of a bit more substance prior to the trade deadline. Now, don't forget that a pretty talented winger down in Providence who could get a look after the holiday freeze, after the World Juniors, and that would be Fabian Lysell, who has 8 goals and 11 assists in 20 games for Providence this season. Do they keep Smith assigned to Providence, call up Lysell, put him on the third line, say with Frederick, Coyle, Lysell, and then a fourth line of Foligno, Nosek, Greer? That might not look too bad. We'll have to see what their plan is after Lysell goes to the World Juniors and hopefully lights it up for the Team Sweden, of course. So that's the latest with regard to the Boston Bruins. And again, we'll see what the lineup looks like on Thursday for a game against the Winnipeg Jets, whether or not Smith gets in or if he remains assigned to Providence, but still in Boston. Actually, I should rephrase that earlier. A line of Coyle, Hall, and Lysell, of course, on the third line. The fourth line would be Foligno, Nosek, Frederick. That would give them a pretty dynamic bottom six that I kind of like. So we'll see if Lysell is brought up. I forgot that Hall, of course, has been playing on the third line as of late. Also want to pass on condolences to the family of former Bruins captain Don McKenney, who passed away yesterday at age 88. He served as Bruins captain back in the early 60s, and he was a well-respected defensive forward, won the Lady Byng Trophy in 1959-1960, and finished top 4 in voting for 6 consecutive seasons for that award. He was the club's 10th captain and played 592 games with the Bruins, 195 goals, 267 assists for 462 points, which is ranked 22nd in franchise history. Coming up after the break, I'm going to take a look at some of your holiday wishes for the Bruins, as well as give you some of mine. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to the college bowl season, basketball, NHL, they've got it all at betonline.net. They're the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts. So yesterday on Twitter, I put out a call for some holiday wishes for the Boston Bruins. We are only 4 days until Christmas. Hopefully you've got some of your shopping done. If you haven't yet, go easy on the people working retail right now. As one meme that I saw yesterday said, it's not their fault that you waited until Mary's water broke in order to get your shopping done. Now, let's begin with Sean Woodley, host of the Locked On Raptors podcast and the overseer of all things Locked On NHL podcasts. He said, "Can I ask for a divisional playoff abolition on behalf of all the Atlantic teams?" Of course, the current playoff format has been a source of ire for many in recent years because of the first place team playing the wildcard team, and then second and third in the division being matched up against one another, when in recent years anyways, those teams from the Atlantic Division have been among the tops in the NHL. So if the playoffs began today, for example, the Boston Bruins would play the New York Islanders, 52 points against a 38-point team, whereas the Toronto Maple Leafs would host the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. Those two teams are, well, it actually would work out all right because Toronto right now is second in the Atlantic, third in the Eastern Conference, and Tampa Bay is sixth. So you go by the old 1 through 8 format. It actually works out to be how it would be right now. Boston would play the Islanders, Carolina would play the Rangers, and then you'd have Toronto versus Tampa Bay, New Jersey versus Pittsburgh. If you look at the conference standings, that's exactly how the matchups would be based on a 1 through 8 format. Bruins in first, Islanders in eighth, and each team matching up. So, sorry, Sean, it's actually working out pretty well at the moment. So unless another Atlantic team can move up, take the fourth spot, or perhaps the Maple Leafs or the Lightning move up and are, second, third ranked with the Maple Leafs in the Eastern Conference, it actually looks pretty fair at the moment. So, holiday wish, not granted. Just kidding. Danny Dester at Dester Jester writes, my wish list: Bruins stay healthy for the remainder of the season to have a legit shot at the Cup. Obviously, health is huge for any team looking to make a run. And the Bruins right now are indeed healthy. There's no real injury issues to be concerned about at the moment. Absolutely nobody listed on injured reserve right now, which is great. We, of course, started the season without Brad Marchand, without Charlie McAvoy. We've had some injuries along the way. David Krejci was banged up a bit. Brandon Carlo's been injured. Matt Grzelcyk started off injured. Who else has been out of the lineup? Nick Foligno. But the Bruins have been relatively healthy this season, and that has been a big factor in their success. So, knock on wood, hopefully that remains the case, especially into the postseason. Danny also wrote a Charlie McAvoy jersey. Santa is going to have to come through because Fanatics has nothing. That's surprising. You'd think that they'd have McAvoy jerseys available. And Danny also writes, my Winter Classic jersey to get here in time for the game. And indeed, the Winter Classic now less than 2 weeks away, January 2nd. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but I'll be watching from my home in Guelph, Ontario, wearing my Winter Classic toque. So hopefully that gets there in time for you, Danny. Oh, sorry, did I say Danny? It's actually Denny. Next, Tim at Impossible Pie 1. Again, saying I'm hoping for this team to stay healthy all year, win the Cup, and wipe the 2019 final off the face of the earth. Cannot agree with that more. How great would it be to have... I was reminded of this the other night when they were celebrating the 1,000th point from Patrice Bergeron. You saw Brad Marchand, David Krejci joining him for a photo op. The 3 remaining players from the 2011 Cup winning squad. And, of course, part of the gang that lost in 2019. It would be great to eradicate that loss and for those guys to win one more time. Yes, Will.
You need to wash this.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder from my son Will to wash one of his onesies because it's going to be pajama day at school tomorrow for the last day before the holidays. So yes, Tim, I completely agree. I also agree with your next one. The league decides to get rid of rotating digital ads. I can't stand them. Huge eyesore. Please, please, please. But it's not going to happen. Tim added, like to wish you and your family Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Very much appreciated, Tim. And I extend that to all of you as well. All right, one more before another break. Nick Defoe writes, I wish for a very successful year with this amazing team of ours. In other words, to go all the way. Of course, based on the start the Bruins have had, expectations are high. We're all hoping, wishing, praying for a Stanley Cup win this year. And yeah, of course, who wouldn't want that? I also wish Bergeron and Krejci would sign 8-year contracts. I don't know if they'd still be playing at this high of a level in 8 years, but I do agree. I would love to see them stay beyond this season. They're both on 1-year deals. There's some flexibility there. No guarantee that they're retiring at the end of the season. No guarantee that they'll be back. If they do go out with the Stanley Cup victory, they could pull a Mark Recchi and announce their retirement right after the game. But hopefully they do stick around to defend if they do win a cup. If they don't win, to give it another go next season. All right, coming up after the break, going to share some more of your holiday wishes as well as express some of my own. I want to remind you that the Locked On Sports Today podcast is available in your podcast feeds and on YouTube as your next listen. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the world of sports in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with local and national experts and insiders. Again, Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Thank you so much again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen today. And every day, it means so much that you download this podcast even once a week, twice a week, every day. If so, you're my new best friend. At Boston Ticket Stubs on Instagram wrote, not surprisingly, based on their handle, I wish the Bees and sports in general would bring back or at least give the option of having hard copy paper tickets. I used to love getting those ticket stubs, holding onto them, and I still have the ticket stub from my lone visit to Fenway Park back in like 2002, I think it was. Remember it vividly because we got scalper tickets, sat in center field. It was Derek Lowe versus Scott Erickson, and the benches and bullpens cleared. It's the only time I've gotten to witness that at a baseball game, and very memorable experience, and it's cool to have that ticket stub from that game. So I agree. At ProbDrop Baines on Instagram said, I'm wishing the Bruins don't finish first. Don't want the President's Trophy curse. Yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword there, right? We want the Bruins to keep winning throughout the regular season. We want them to show that they're the best team in hockey. But there is that President's Trophy curse where we see teams who rarely end up winning the Stanley Cup. It's like a tale of two seasons, really. There's the regular season, and then things are so much different in the playoffs. So I think there is still a level of respect that is due unto the President's Trophy winners. It's cool to have that banner. It shows that over the course of an 82-game season, you were the best. And that should mean something. The Bruins right now, 6 points ahead of second place Carolina with the game in hand. They have the best goal differential in the NHL. And there should be some reward for winning that. We remember back in the bubble, the COVID bubble, they finished first. They were on their way to a President's Trophy win over the course of 82 games. And they had to play that play-in thing for seeding, which threw things off. This year, yeah, they could very well win the President's Trophy. Do I not want them to win it? Well, I want them to win every time they play. So by definition, I guess I want them to finish with the most points. I don't think there's a curse per se. It's just so different when you get into the playoffs, and just so hard to win. So I don't know. Again, it's a double-edged sword. My personal holiday wish list. I'd love to see Jeremy Swayman get his save percentage over 900 before the start of the new year. Right now, he is at 895. Had a very strong showing in his last game, a 939 save percentage in the win over Columbus. I would expect that he will get one of the starts later this week against either the Winnipeg Jets or the New Jersey Devils. Based on how the Devils are playing lately, I might save him for that game and give Ullmark the game at home against a Jets team that is playing pretty well, although they are depleted injury-wise. So I'd love to see Swayman get his save percentage over 900. We can get back to a more regular tandem to keep Ullmark fresh for the playoffs. I, of course, want to see a contract extension for David Pastrnak. We're almost at the turn of the calendar to 2023. He can become an unrestricted free agent in July. And I don't necessarily think it's a case where he is raising his value with his strong start. Everybody knows how good he is. Everybody knows his value. He said he's not looking to set any records in terms of average annual valuation. He is among the league leaders in goals and points so far this season. Deserves a contract in the double-digit millions per season. I'd say 8 years, 88 million. Get her done, and let's call it a day. The Bruins obviously hoping to get that number down a bit, and we'll have to see where they land. Finally, I want a Jack Adams trophy for Jim Montgomery. I think we're not underrating his value to the Bruins. Obviously, they are a loaded roster, but the fact that he has come in and instituted his system successfully and has turned his life and his career around after being let go by the Dallas Stars for personal issues. We know he is in recovery, issues with alcoholism. He was dismissed and made him realize that he was living a damaging lifestyle. Struggling with alcohol abuse, checked himself into rehab, got his life together, turned things around, and I think it would be great for him to win a Jack Adams trophy with the Boston Bruins as, just full credit for turning his life around, and for his excellence behind the Boston Bruins bench. What a story that would be for Jim Montgomery. Anyways, those are my holiday wishes. Again, 2 games left before the holiday season or the holiday break. We'd love to see 2 more wins for the Bruins. On tomorrow's podcast, we will preview the game against the Jets, do our weekly cup check, a look at the top 5 teams and where the Bruins rank among them. And then on Friday, we'll recap the game against the Jets, preview the game against the Devils before we check out for Christmas weekend. Hope you're all doing well, my friends. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk to you again here tomorrow on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast.